Well, hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Cindy Daychuck with Queen Bee Creations. We're going to be working on this beauty. Now, this was gifted to me by a good friend who was helping to clear out her mom's home after her mom had passed away. It has some water damage here. Her mother had a lot of plants sitting right on tables, so it's got a big solid ring. And I'm not concerned about that because I'm going to paint the piece, but this has got some raised texture. So what I thought that I'd do with this, because as you can see, it's got some lovely carved details and detailing on the legs. So, you know, nice scallop. So what I thought that I'd do is I wanted to play with one of the new colors from Fusion, and we're going to do some glazing. So I think that again, with waxes and things like that, a lot of people have stopped using glazes or never used them to begin with and don't understand what they can do with them. So I thought this would be the perfect opportunity for us to play with them together, and you can see the beauty of them. And it just opens up a whole host of other possibilities for you. So they're not just limited to perhaps, you know, a white wax or a dark wax, that you've got so many other options. And that's what we're going to do. So to get started, I have my sander down here, and I'm going to get the top sanded off and the whole piece washed off and dried, and then we're going to start getting some paint on this beauty. All right, this is our tabletop. Now, one of the things to bear in mind with Fusion is that you don't want to overwork the paint. So when I'm laying it on, I like to use just a nice flat brush, and you're just going to lay it on very quickly in the direction that you're going. I don't want my edging to end up disrupting it, so I'm having to do that as I go, right? And then we're good. Next row. And this is the first coat. We'll be doing, it looks like 2 coats, and then we'll be done. I'm waiting to see if, because I sanded this, if I happen to have any bleed through. If I do, it'll show up after this first coat, and I'll deal with it then. Just, I don't know, I find it easier. It's quicker to go that way. So I'm going to carry on and get this first coat on. I want it nice and smooth, but I'm not agonizing over perfect coverage. I just don't want any lumps or bumps or deep ridges in it as I'm going. So I want it fairly smooth application, but Fusion, I've tried a lot of the all-in-one paints, and Fusion is by far my favorite. It just goes on like a dream, nice and thick and creamy. Awesome coverage. This is going to look so pretty. So I'll do the underside next after I get the top done. I've already done the legs. And then we'll let this sit and dry before we move on to the second coat. This is the next day. My base coat has dried, and I hope that you can see that it's kind of streaky. Don't look for that first coat to be perfect. It's setting, it's providing you with a solid base to be able to get smooth coverage for your second coat. And I just wanted to show you for this coat, again, I'm not adding tons of paint, but I'm not skimping. And for this one, I'm going to definitely be trying to do nice, smooth, even, long strokes. When I get out toward the edges, I really want to be careful about making sure that I clean up any of those drips, because this is where the paint tends to start to pool. and I don't want to have any of those ridges in it. So I'm not glopping on the paint, and I want to move fairly quickly, especially right now because I've got big overhead fans going because it's so hot out. But you can see how smooth that goes and how great the coverage is. So that second coat is the magic coat. And that's where I really want you to be a little bit more careful in how you're applying the paint, making sure that you're smoothing it out as you go. You can see that I'm avoiding now those first coats that I put down, just because they're starting to dry already. And you have the luxury of a third coat if you need it, but generally speaking, especially with most of these mid-tone colors, 2 coats and you're done. This is our piece all painted out in Newell, and it looks nice, right? It's a lovely color, kind of a gray-green, but it's got lovely details that you lose. You lost them when it was just the solid brown, and you kind of lose it just with it being a solid color either way. Now, you could use a wax, so you could use, dark wax or black wax, white wax. Each is going to give you a different look, and each is going to sit down in all of those details because you'd apply them, wipe them back. We're going to be doing the same thing, but we're going to be using a glaze. Now, I'm using a glaze in this case, firstly because this is already sealed, which beauty of the product. But secondly, because I want a different color. I don't want to use white or black or brown. I would like to use a gray tone. I also want it to be a little bit more translucent. So glazes, you use exactly the same way as you would your wax. You're going to apply it, you're going to wipe it back. I have a wet, well, it's probably wetter than damp rag that I'm going to be using. So definitely something damp to be able to wipe back. I want it to sit down in the details. I don't necessarily want it drifting across the rest of the piece, but we'll see. It would give kind of a different look. In the Fusion line, there is a antique glazing, which is going to be in a brown tone. I don't want brown on this. I actually want to go gray. So they do have a clear glaze that you can drop in your own color. So a little bit of color from any of the Fusion paints to create your own glaze color, which is what I want. I want a gray. I happen to already have a gray glaze on the shelf, which happens to be from the Rust-Oleum line. If I didn't have this, I would just mix up my own. So I'm going to start by just taking a small brush, and I'm using a fairly soft brush because I want to be able to push it down into those details. And before I get too far, I just want to wipe it all back. So you can see it's going to wipe off of the painted surface. But look at, you can now see, even you guys from a distance, you can now see those details popping. And that's what we want. I'm going to be applying it to the rims, down to the details on the legs, but applying it exactly that way. Just painting it into those surfaces, painting it down into the details that I want to kind of highlight. And then I'm just going to be wiping back the excess. So especially where I've painted over that upper surface, I still want that to be the lovely Newell color. And we're just going to be highlighting the details. It's a much softer look. It's got a little bit of that translucency to it than a wax. And don't overlook it as a product to use. This is going to just really make all the difference to sit down in all those crevices. this is our little finished table. Now, technically, Fusion paint seals itself. It seals itself with a matte finish. If you love that finish, then you're done. I elected to put just a light coat of clear wax on it and just buff it lightly. I just find it gives a little slightly smoother texture that I like. But you could finish it with a clear polyacrylic coat of your choice, either tough coat, in like a glossy if you wanted from Fusion to be able to add a little bit more sheen, or you could do the tough coat in a matte finish if you just wanted extra durability. Really, the final look is your choice in terms of what that finish is that you prefer, whether matte or slightly satin, which is more what I've got here because I just lightly buffed it. With wax, I could buff it even more and bring out more sheen if I wanted, but I like it kind of this way. But again, you could go super glossy if you want. Just pick the poly of your choice, your preference, and apply that to the finish. I hope that you learned a couple of things about using glazes. Again, sometimes I think this is really common knowledge, and then I get somebody going, what's a glaze? So I was talking with somebody in the shop about Fusion's glazes and how they could take the clear and add a little bit of paint to it and make a colored glaze of their choice. And they didn't know glazes, they knew waxes, and that was it. So when I got this piece in, I thought it'd be the perfect one to try one of the new Fusion colors, Newell, just out, and to show you a little bit of a glazing technique. It gives a bit of a softer look. Most glazes have a bit of translucency to them, and certainly you could do it all over a piece if you wanted. I tend to use it more in the crevices to highlight some of those details, and this had some beautiful details that were going to be lost if I didn't do something. So let me know if you picked up a couple of tips. Hope you did. Certainly let me know what you think of this project, possibly even the new Fusion color. And as always, I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Until then, take care.